Hi, I'm Nick from Infinity Aquarium Design in Los Angeles. I'm here in Bel Air, California, along LA's famous Mulholland Drive, and I'm at the home of two of our newest clients who decided to bring a slice of the ocean into their home by having us install this beautiful, custom in-wall corner aquarium. The overall design of this house has a very modern and minimal tone, and the aquarium was the perfect addition to add that splash of color and comfort to this already relaxing hilltop hideaway. We came on board to design and install this aquarium before the house was even built. Being involved in such an early stage allows us to request and utilize the proper amount of space for the most effective and efficient filtration systems. So let's go back in time and see how this beautiful aquarium came together. Alright, we're here in front of the aquarium, and one of the really cool things about this tank is that it's got a bent corner without any seams. Now, that's the beautiful thing about acrylic, is that we can mold an aquarium into any shape or size. So the way we achieve this bend is we use what's called a line bend. We take a solid flat sheet of acrylic, we lay it out and suspend it in midair, and then we put a heater above and below this portion of the panel. And we heat the acrylic up to about 325 degrees for about 45 minutes, at which point we take the piece that's heated up and we set it on a 90-degree angled jig. And the panel slowly bends and conforms to the shape that we want. Then we let it cool down and we've got a beautiful bent piece of acrylic without any seams. So no matter what angle you look at this tank from, you're not going to see any seamed panel. It's a beautiful finish. Once this covering is off and you see the finished product, you'll know how beautiful it is. So we still have a lot of stuff to do as far as finishing the aquarium, but that's going to come once we get everything plumbed and all of our filtration is in place. So today I want to show you what type of components we're using on the filtration system and talk to you a little bit about each of them. For our sump, we have a 25-gallon acrylic sump, and we have 2 cubic feet of bioballs. In general, you want to use 1 cubic foot per 100 gallons. Now obviously there's things that will make that vary constantly, but that's a general rule of thumb to start. You can see on our drip tray here, we've used a 5/16 inch drill bit to drill out some larger holes. When you tend to use smaller holes, there's debris or food or particles that can get caught and clog up those holes. So we use a larger hole so that the trickle is evenly dispersed over the bioballs. The other thing we do is we make sure we have a very thick and tall drip tray, because we like to use some sort of bonded filter pad or mechanical filter pad to put over the drip tray so that it pulls any debris out of the water that's filtering through the drain. Another thing we do is we use a cover, make a cover to go over our wet area of the drip tray. What this does is it prevents evaporation out of the sump. So, especially in a reef aquarium where you've got metal halide lighting and you've got a lot of pumps churning a lot of water through the system, you're going to get a lot of evaporation. A lot of you might have to top off over time, even every day if you have a lot of water going through your system. If you put a cover over your sump, you're going to minimize your evaporation to the point where you may not even have to top off between water changes. One thing we have to modify with the sump is we have to let it accommodate our skimmer. On this system, we're going to be using an ASN G-Series skimmer. This is a G2 skimmer. It's a really efficient skimmer, and one of the things that's easy about it is that it's an in-sump skimmer. On some of our other videos, you may have seen that we usually use a top fathom skimmer and we plumb it outside the sump. The reason we're not doing that today is because we're very limited on our space for our filtration, and we want to make sure everything runs efficiently and we're not cutting corners or downsizing our equipment just to fit the space. So this skimmer will actually fit inside the wet chamber of our sump, and then we'll modify our cover so that it fits around the skimmer and we have a real clean fit. This is our UV sterilizer. It's a 25-watt aqua ultraviolet sterilizer. It's going to be plumbed in line with our main pump. We'll get into that more later down in the video, but this is a real good UV. We use them on all of our installations, and this is a 25-watt. We're going to be using this on our install today. The chiller that we're going to be using is a JBJ Arctica chiller. Now there's a couple reasons why we chose this chiller for this installation. Number one, the chiller is actually going to be placed up in the attic. It's not going to be on the ground floor with the rest of our filtration. Like I said, we're limited on space, and we don't want to cut any corners just because we don't have the space that we're normally used to. So this is a 1/4 horsepower chiller. Typically a 1/4 horsepower chiller can chill up to 180 gallons of water as long as your ambient temperature is rather mild. This aquarium itself is 180 gallons, but with all of the displacement from the decorations, we're probably looking at about 160 to 170 gallons. So this chiller should be able to handle it. Because we're putting it up in the attic, we don't want any vibration on the roof because obviously people are going to be living in the home. So this chiller, the JBJ chiller, is a very, very quiet chiller. It's very reliable. It does require minimal maintenance a few times a year, but it's pretty self-sufficient and it runs really smoothly. The other thing about it is it has an internal thermostat, so you can rest assured that the water temperature will always be taken care of within the chiller. You don't have to adjust any external thermostats or controllers. It's a real convenient chiller if you're mounting it remotely and if you want it to be really quiet. Because our chiller is going up in our attic, we're going to be using a really beefy pump. The pump we're using on this system is an Milwaukee 100 RLT. Now, without any head pressure, this pump churns about 2,000 gallons per hour. That's a lot of water. So what we're going to do is we're going to plumb this in a way where it splits off our pump, goes through our UV in one return, and then the other return is going to go up into the ceiling, through our chiller, and then back down into the aquarium. Now, as I mentioned, noise is an issue. So one thing we're going to do, and we usually do this on all of our installations, we're going to use a real thick rubber matting, and we're going to place this below all of our equipment before we lay anything down. We're also going to lay it underneath our chiller up in the attic, so that when everything's running at the same time, the noise that it puts out is all reduced to a very minimum hum. I usually tell people it's sort of like a small fridge that you would see in a college dorm room. So it should be very tolerable, and hopefully you won't hear it at all. Now that we've got most of our filtration in place, we can actually begin to plumb the filtration system. One of the things we're going to do different on this tank today is change the way we return the water into the aquarium. Typically we use what's called lock line, which is long black flexible tubing that allows us to adjust the direction of the water flow inside the tank. Because our profile is so slim and we want to maximize the visible space inside this aquarium, we're going to use what's called an eyeball bulkhead. It's a 1-inch bulkhead that inside reduces to a 3/4 eyeball. The eyeball is movable, so it gives us directional flow where our water is returning. What's great about this is that when it's attached to your pre-filter, it keeps a very slim and low profile. So that allows us to see the entire tank, it allows us to create a very elaborate coral display, and it allows you to keep your eye on the fish and not get distracted by flexible tubing. So I'm going to go ahead and drill the holes for this. It's a 1-inch bulkhead. Then we'll go ahead and install them, and hopefully it'll look really slick when we're all done. Okay, you're up here with me inside the aquarium, and I'm going to show you the holes that we drilled to actually illustrate how the low profile bulkheads actually work. So you're sort of getting an aerial view of the aquarium, and here's our pre-filter. So you can see where our holes have drilled down there for our drain and then for our return. Now in the sides here of each pre-filter, as we go down into the tank, you can see I've drilled a 1-inch hole in each side of this 90-degree angle pre-filter. So here's our bulkhead, our eyeball bulkhead. So typically we would have lock line returning the water, but since this is such a low profile tank, I mean we don't have a lot of space where we can sort of have tubing not distract from the display of the aquarium. We use this bulkhead, and this fits perfectly in the hole, and as you can see it gives us a very slim low profile, and we can direct this eyeball any direction we want so that we can actually be in charge of our water flow. And there's one for each hole inside the pre-filter, so that'll give us water movement throughout the entire aquarium. To view more of our custom aquarium installations, please visit our website at infinityaquariums.com. As always, thanks for watching.